Okay, let's have a recap of this, commentary, applications, any difficulties that came up, a review. Everybody got it? All right? That it's a big one, that it can also be a little one. I mean, the geo could be, you could run it on why is it that you can communicate with one, coworker really effectively, but you have trouble with this one. Relatively small chunk, and you could elicit the goal, evidence and outcomes of that, or it could be something like a career change, major change in life. The structure, the pattern can apply to context or behaviors, outcomes, evidence, regardless of size. So what questions do you have, if any, at this point about the geo? Particularly as it links to the little things we were doing with strategies and the relationship, pattern detection, like that. And the process of evidence and operations leading to an outcome. Israel.
There was, in one case, there was a conflict of this one. That a part of me is not confident, a part of me is... So it was conflict. So we did not touch on that.
Right. And there were a couple of groups, actually, for that came up. How did yours go, Blair? We worked with the same thing?
We all came up with the same, that it's a little bit deeper than fitting in with the exercise itself.
Yeah.
In that.
So the thing about parts is something that, let's see, I think it's 2 sessions down the road. You're going to go to a 2-day exploration of parts integration, communicating with parts, strategies for aligning parts, etc. Right? So that for those of you that are here for that, that's going to be in your repertoire. For those of you who get the DVDs with it on, that'll be in your repertoire. But parts can pop up at any time, right?
And how much that this is operating all the time, and it's just starting to notice that, if you just did straight, trying to anchor, there's still the other part going to be going, no, haven't been satisfied.
Right. So then, that's information gathering about the structure. So you're exploring this, and you suddenly find, I think the example in your situation is kind of like Harold's. It was a dietary thing where the first part of the diet went really, really well, the second part not so well, because in this one a part came up, right? But in some ways, Harold's was kind of like a part. This was a wide open, congruent, da-da-da, but then this one was a sort of a self-doubt part. However, in the case that you were dealing with, the part that came up in the second half was in direct conflict with, the outcomes, the major outcome of maintaining the diet, right? So what you've got there is, boom, here's another pattern that reveals itself, a parts conflict. So then it may be time to pop out of that whole, everything you're doing, and say, okay, I want you to think of a time when there were 2 different sort of competing aspects of yourself, and you managed to integrate these 2 parts, or these 2 parts found a way to work together. Or, a time when you wanted something and something else, and over time this was resolved to your satisfaction. Do you remember a time like that? So you can model the change that you need to install here. Right? Does that make sense?
No.
All right. So you're in here, you're doing this, and you got a parts conflict. Right? So you don't proceed, because that's sort of it's the answer to the question in the outcome frame, what stops you. What stops me is a parts conflict. So you go, great, let's leave this for a moment. Let's come over here, and I want you to think about a time in your life where you had a couple kind of competing parts, and you were able to integrate them, to kind of form a synthesis. Maybe it was when you were going back to school, and part of you wanted to, part of you didn't, but it came to a really nice conclusion. Those 2 parts got together. So have you ever had anything like that? You kind of pace them into a successful integration of parts. That's the R getting results thing, right? And the R getting results is the integration of parts. And you contrast it with this, you teach these parts to do what these parts know how to do, then you install that and proceed with this. So there's a way to chunk it like that, kind of given what we know now, but ultimately the process of parts integration and resolving that kind of conflict before you proceed is going to be more streamlined.
I think for all of us, you could really see the arm movements were like one half the body was really trying to do something, and the other half the body was kind of going.
Right. Yeah. It becomes real obvious. Particularly with sensory acuity and you're calibrating, you suddenly, Oh, there's two parts here. Yeah. Well, good observations and learning. Judy.
One of the things I think that came up for both Larry and myself, the two parts were also two parts that came from way back when, in the 1928.
Right.
And parental, what you should be doing and what you want to be doing, and the rebellious part of the candy and this instead of the workout and the discipline and the accomplishment part and the wanting to be ourselves.
Yeah, a little
That's
bit more
the
getting
insight that came to me.
of who am I and who are all these other people.
Man, I tell you what, you buy these kids books, you send them to school. And
Blame the parents.
It's great, but this is wonderful. Because what you're confronting in your learning is the next evolutionary phase of the learning itself. In an ongoing way, I mean, the training is structured like that. What's coming up next is parts, and after parts and the integration of parts, how to deal with these 1928 parts that pop up from time to time. Cool.
Yeah, it's not something that just kind of happened last week. It's
Well, we've got 20 minutes to... Other commentary about the geo, per se?
It just makes it so clear what you're not doing.
Right. What you're not doing, and sometimes what you're doing, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right.
just, once you start writing it down, like, duh.
Right.
You know.
Well, and the syntax is an interesting one. I mean, for anything you want to do in life, you got to have a goal, right? And you got to know somewhere how you'll know when you've done it, so you can stop doing it because you're successful. And then you have to understand, well, what are the steps? How do I go through making this happen? And when you have that as sort of a template for self-exploration, then all of these patterns pop out. And you have a sense of, wow, could be something the problem is the way that I'm imagining it, or, you know, I don't have maybe a visual construct in there to generate options, or maybe I've got this unpleasant state, or I've got a voice inside that's creating unpleasant states. So, wow, suddenly what used to be a kind of a black box, you open it up, shine the light in, and there's structure. And you can begin to adjust that structure. Right. One way to think about all of NLP is that it's a big, fat geo. Right? You had goals when you came here, and you had some kind of evidence for, you know, boy, I hope at the end of 5 days, 10 days, or 20 days, I've got this. This is my target, and I'll kind of know. And maybe not so much the operational phase, but more and more of that's filling in. And I'll bet there's not a person in this room whose goals are the same. Right? More information has come in, an awareness of possibility, where this can be used, how it can change your life, so the goals themselves are going through a transform, just like Israel was saying, right? Everything you do. And as more learning, news of difference comes into the system, it should change your goals. You know, what would happen if you had the same goals you had when you were 10 or 12 or 14? There are people who do, right? But it's not a very generative way to live life. All right. Any other commentary on this little pattern before we proceed? Then what we're going to do, just to make sure you have, hopefully, sufficient time to carry off some of these projects that you've got going, I'm going to give you a 20-minute break, but it's going to be kind of a work break. Someone's got a camera, is that right? Maya's got a camera, and this would be a good time in this 20 minutes to kind of organize around the yearbook. Right? It's a great idea. I would really, really encourage you to put some time and effort into it. As I was getting packing before I came up here, I was going through my bookshelf, and I ran across in all my file folders the yearbook for last year's group. And man, it was great. Because I hadn't really, a couple of these folks I thought about, but I was going through it, and suddenly the whole experience came back. It's a wonderful document to have. So I'd encourage you to do that. We're going to take 20 minutes. Let's focus on that and get as much of the logistical little stuff out of the way as we can, and then we'll regroup. So we'll be back here at 11:20. Okay, this is obviously a work in progress, so where's Tom? Tom?
He ran up to get paper.
Okay, so what's your time frame on this little thing to have it done, hopefully? By the end of the day? End of the day.
By the end of the day.
So just sort of log that away, complete your life history, what you want all your colleagues to remember about you. I was the good-looking guy sitting in the back. Okay, before we begin, I wanted to say a few words with Chris, I think, about the big glass eye in the back of the room from a slightly different perspective. So we're not going to, this is off. Put it on standby, will you, David, and turn the monitor around so that it's facing me.
Sure, just so you can see it.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to do a little. We're going to be, I think, about 5 minutes late for the van up the hill for lunch. I want to set out your task for this afternoon. And I think, let's see, Matt, would you be willing to allow me to demonstrate a little pattern here? So let me just stand right here on that blue chalk line. You see the other blue chalk line? We're going to take a walk here in a minute, but it's going to be a specific kind of walk. It's going to be, this comes from John Grinder. He likes these two words because the states are really an interesting state. The two states of grace and power. Whatever that means to you. Right? I know that you have a reference experience with grace and power. Right? Your task is to walk from that line to this line in a mix of those states. You're going to walk with grace and power from there to here. Right? And what I'm going to do is monitor this. I'm not quite sure what it looks like yet. I won't know that he begins to walk. But if, as he begins to walk, I notice any serious deterioration in his state, he looks away, something that indicates to me he's breaking state and he's not in it, I'm going to stop him and we're going to reset. Because you want a real congruent walk all the way through in that state. Okay? So I want you to make whatever internal arrangements you'd like to right now. Begin to let those states come up. And you're going to link that with your physiology. Okay. Let your physiology express grace and power as you walk. So show me what it looks like. Okay, there was a bit of an eye blink here. It was real quick. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
All right, start over. There was just and it was real quick. As he was right here, it was like an internal access, just kind of went down. But there was a little bit of tremor in the force there. So I kind of challenged him on that. He's doing great up till then, great after that. So this one, internal arrangements, you want to run it all the way through. Okay, I can feel that one. That was great. I want to do it one more time. Wow. Okay, look around the room. And wow. Cool. All right, great. So he's got this, and I got actually a bit of an anchor here, right? Mm-hmm. My anchor is a hand gesture. Oh, wow. So, he's accessed and demonstrated grace and power, and I've got a visual anchor that I can use from a distance. Let's see if it works. So I want you to count how many A's there are in this quadrant of that flip chart. Wow. All right, that's good. Now let's put it to work. After lunch, you're going to be with a partner, and you're going to have a community task. We're going to let you loose on the city of Lincoln. Here's your task at lunch. You're going to have 45 minutes each, just an hour and a half. You're going to break for lunch pretty close to noon, and you're not going to be back here until, let's see, 3 o'clock. So it gives you 45 minutes each, an hour and a half. Is that right? 1:30, 2:30, 3. Gives you an hour and a half for your normal lunch. And then on top of that, for specific work exercise, you have another hour and a half, which is 45 minutes each. Right? That means as a group, we're going to return here precisely at 3 p.m., having accomplished the following. You and your partner are going to explore town, go wherever you want to go. Maybe it's time to buy some gifts to take home or whatever, You're going to go to the park and see people playing with their dogs. And what your task is going to be is to find someone and anchor a resource state in them. And your ultimate goal is to have an interaction with somebody, utilizing anchoring, and leave them in a better state than the one you found them in. Right? So, for example, Maya, I was looking earlier at that necklace. You said it was a what? And what does that mean? And what does that necklace mean to you?
It develops good energy around me.
What does it feel like when it does that?
I feel more calm, more concentrated.
So there's kind of a calmness and concentration just from the necklace?
Yes.
Wow. Is it all over your body, or does it radiate from the necklace, or what?
It's around my body.
Around your body. Wow, that's really good. So, I'm having an interaction with the sales girl at the jewelry store. She's got a necklace. I ask her about the necklace. She says it brings an energy to her body. I'm going, wow, that's really neat. And I'm accessing the state. The necklace, if you can't see it, has a pendant with two wavy, like water lines on it. So my fingers are kind of going like that. Right? Then my intention is, okay, I'm going to elicit the state of whatever this energy from the necklace is around her body. Let her go into it. And I'll make some comments, maybe my voice tone and a hand gesture to link with that. And when I think I've got it anchored, I got a little visual anchor here, maybe some voice tone, that's really neat. Right? And I'll say, excuse me just a second. I'll go over to my partner who's been watching. I'll say, okay, man, that sales girl said necklace in my anchor. It's going to look like this in the state. She kind of goes, ah. Right? So I'm going to demonstrate to him what my anchor is, whatever it may be. And I'm also going to demonstrate the state I want to elicit with that anchor. That's the one I observed in my, the person that's there.
What if they're not looking
What if
at you?
What if who's not looking?
Like Maya is not looking at you.
Well, what I'm saying is the role play here is she's selling jewelry. I go up and say, hi, I'm looking for something to buy my mother back home. And, oh, wow, that necklace is beautiful. That's just exactly something like that. What's that necklace? And she starts telling me the necklace and about energy. And when her state changes, then I set my anchor. Wow, that's great. I want one of those. So this movement and the voice tone is anchored with that state. When I think it's sufficiently there and robust, right? I say, excuse me, I'll be back in a minute. Then I go over here to my partner who's somewhere lurking in the store, and unobtrusively as possible. Okay, man, I'm watching the finger movements, the anchor. And then I demonstrate the state that I've calibrated in her. So let's go with this. Okay. So he's going to confirm or disconfirm. This guy can pass you or fail you. Right? If you go back and go, that's just a beautiful necklace. And your partner, the sales girl goes, ah! That's how they go. What he wants to see, he's actually calibrating it a couple times that he's been watching. He already knows what it looks like, but he also wants to see what you demonstrated. So that you go back and go, I know I won't find a necklace just like that one. And she should respond that way. But this one over here would be nice for my daughter. Right? So you want to do a little thought about this. And it can be anywhere, anything. Salespeople are there to serve you. Right? And sometimes working behind the counter is a bummer. You know what I mean? It's easy to put these people in a much better state. Right? You could find somebody that's obviously a local, make the ecology frame okay. They got time to talk to you, somebody that's running down the street you don't want to. So make sure it's contextually okay. You could talk to one of the locals here and tell them that you're here for the summer, you're loving the place, and you're thinking about maybe coming back for a summer, and what's it like to actually live here? What do they like the most about it? Is it the hiking or the fishing? Why are you here? And what do you really like about Winter Park? And they get into I'll tell you, it's the hiking. And you go, hiking. The mountains, the rivers. You get them into a state, and you set it with some kind of an anchor. Right? And then some convenient excuse, and, excuse me just a sec, I'll be back in a minute. Go over, check it out with your partner, come back, and fire it off. You can talk to somebody in the park that's got their dog. People with dogs are easy to access states in. Wow, what kind of dog is that? Did you have him since a puppy? Right? And boom, they're gone. There it is. All you got to do is reach down and, good boy, look at the guy. You got the set. All right? Now, I want to put the whole thing together. If you find it a bit challenging, and you're not ready to walk up to the salesperson, right? And you do the backup for your state, you will already have done what I demonstrated with Matt. You will already have done walking with grace and powers. So if you, as you're anchoring in the community here, notice that your state isn't what you want it to be, there's nervousness or whatever, you look over at your partner and he goes, wow. To boost your state and put you back in that state of grace and power. Right? Furthermore, before you begin, this is something that you'll do wherever before you begin, is walk with grace and power. Notice that Matt demonstrated it, just the state. So Matt, what I want you to do now, you know what your task is. I mean, you know what you're going to be doing at lunch.
Yeah.
And you can, you have plenty of time to strategize and roam around town, find somebody, choose somebody you're comfortable with out there and like that, so you can set all those frames. But you understand the task.
Yeah.
All right. I want you to hold that task as content in your mind, kind of a future pace. That this is what I'm going to be doing after lunch. Right? You're going to be thinking that through, and as you think it through, you're going to be walking grace and power, because your body already knows how to walk grace and power, and your head can do anything while your body's walking. So you're going to be thinking through this whole process of anchoring in the community while you walk with grace and power. I know what grace and power looks like. If as he walks now, I notice that it's not the same, I'm going to reset him until he can comfortably imagine anchoring somebody in the community walking with grace and power. Right? So, let's give this a shot. Whenever you're ready. Excellent. That was really good. Cool. You got it?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Cool.
The partner doesn't do anything. That's partner part?
Yeah.
Anchor?
Let me backtrack the whole thing. Hour and a half for lunch. Then you arrange where you're going to meet. You're going to have an hour and a half to do this. The very first thing you do, it's going to take no more than 5 or 6 minutes each. Matt and I are partners. The first thing I would do, in my position, I would have Matt walk with grace and power. Do. Walk with grace and power, just a little spice. Whatever we are. Grace and power, I see him demonstrate grace and power, right? Until he can congruently walk with grace and power. And then I say, okay, now I want you to think about this task you're going to do, anchoring in the community, and walk with grace and power. Until you can tell by calibration and from their comment that, yeah, I can do it. I'm thinking about anchoring this person, but my state is good. Right? So there's a little anchoring sequence that you do with your partner up front. And as you do it, you're going to be setting an anchor, as Matt did when he came towards Matt. Wow. Right? So you can fire that from across the room if need be. So you're kind of a state backup, and they've already rehearsed it from a resource state. Then when you're ready, you guys explore the town, go wherever you want. Just kind of think, what kind of state would be easy for me to access? What kind of anchor would I use? Is there, maybe it's somebody, it's a jewelry store, maybe they're wearing a neat ring, like a tap on their finger. It could be a kinesthetic anchor. I want you to strategize, because it takes some specifics. You want to know what you're doing before you go in. Right? Otherwise, it's way too confusing and overwhelming to try to make it up on the spot. So, case the joint first.
Case the joint first.
So you want us, if I'm understanding correctly, to do it without them really knowing about it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If they go, hey, what are you doing with your fingers?
Now, do you care if we actually let them know, someone that, would you?
I would let
approach
that,
their own or just
no,
not?
I would
Just
actually, your intent is to leave them in a better place in the town, or to allow them to access some really great memory, right? And you don't need to say, hey, I just anchored you. It's like an 86 from the 7-Eleven, right? No one else here is allowed. 86 from the 7-Eleven. It's totally covert. Totally covert. And there's 2 rounds of this. One person does it first, 45 minutes to do it, and at the end of it they go, whoo. So the next person does it. And then we're going to gather here at 3 in the afternoon to explore our successes.
So we work with different people, right? So in one store,
Yeah.
one partner.
Yeah, don't anchor the same person.
Yeah, they're still-
And not only is the necklace nice, but the hair, man. All right, one more question here.
So I misunderstood. Maybe I anchor someone, then I go tell my partner what I did, and then my partner goes, or I go back and do it again.
All right, that's a stretch. This is a good question. There was a little bit of confusion, but let me clear up. The task is you go demonstrate to your partner the anchor you've set and the response that you expect. Right? That's to give him a calibration to confirm or disconfirm. Then the explicit task is you go back and do the same thing. I mean, if I'm demonstrating to you, here's my anchor, which is the response that from her, I go back and I demonstrate. You're just there to make sure I've done it.
So you only do that once.
Right.
You don't go anchor something, go back, and then anchor it again.
Well, you're actually you're anchoring. Here's it. Hang on. I want this to be explicit. You're anchoring the state in the person. Then you're breaking state by talking to your partner. You're demonstrating it. Then you're going back and firing the anchor. If you do that, you get the same response. You are successful. All right. Everybody clear on that? Okay. Here's a stretch. If you're really doing good, and it's like, wow, and you feel you want to stretch, you go over to your partner and say, okay, you know the anchor, you know the voice tone, you go do it. See if they can get the same response. It would really be fun to do. They either do or they don't. Right? All right, you got it? Bus is waiting back here at 3 o'clock. Take it easy on the fourth. As you pass by. Okay, well, I gave Chris a ride back after lunch here, and he said sometime not long ago he saw smoke rising from town and the fire engines going in that direction, so I just had nothing to do with what you folks were doing. That's all I wanted. Well, we're all back, and it looked to be a pretty good state. Here's did they? Nothing. Excellent. All right. I want to hear some experiences. You guys are set loose for a while here in town. Yeah.
Well, I had to do it 3 times. The first time, Brian stole my client.
Right. Stole your client?
Well, it's too easy. We're in the shop. The lady's having a bad day. I'm talking to her and trying to get a state changed. Her dog shows up that's been missing that she's worried about.
Ah.
And this is Yvonne and I have stepped off to the side, and Brian and Ellen are on their way out, and she gets into this crazy excited state because her dog's out. And Brian,
how wonderful is that?
But the cool thing is I saw it, and on the way out, I thanked her for, finding the necklace for me, and I fired off the anchor. And it worked.
Boom, wow.
And then I had a couple more times.
Excellent. See, that's a great application of it. I mean, anchoring, kind of the way we've been learning it, or have learned it, is a little mechanical. You elicit states, you anchor states, and you integrate states, right? The best way to get a really powerful anchor is in a naturally occurring state when the person is already there, right? And people go in and out of states all the time. You never know when you're going to need them. The same kind of pattern when I first learned anchoring, my practitioner, my daughter was 4 years old, and she would periodically have really high moments when she was just excited and feeling good and being kind of creative. She'd show me something in her little coloring book and said, look, I colored this, and I didn't even go outside the lines and Mickey's, And whenever she would be in that state, I'd reach over and go, that's good, right? Tug on her ear very consistently, and voice tone. Right? And I think I reinforced that for a week or so. Right? Just very respectfully, and only when she was in that state. Because I also knew that periodically, if you have kids, know that there's that rainy day syndrome when they've nothing they want to watch on the cartoons, they've looked at all their coloring books, there's nothing to do, and I'm not hungry, and I'm not tired, and, right, Sharon? Yeah, bored, right? And one day when my daughter was in this state, she was kind of, that thing where you feel something tugging on your pant leg, and there she is again. Like, I said, well, I don't know. What else could you do? Right? Same tug, same voice tone. And within 5 minutes, she'd gone into her toys and pulled out all this stuff and was just really active and creative. Just boom. Very nice. Great application. So was that the one that you ended up using?
No,
or you?
That was
Just a, that was
I was just making everybody's targets.
target of opportunity, right? Cool.
No, we were just walking out because Ellen was going to do it in there, and it's too crowded with too much NLP in there.
Sure.
So we're like out of here. So yeah, and the dog came in, and she was all happy, and I just couldn't resist.
Yeah. Cool. So, Ellen, what did you do? How was your
I went
experience?
into a jewelry shop,
Huh?
and I was getting my signal for Brian for...
Cool.
It took me a little while because I needed to engage her in something.
Yeah.
And so she was showing me watches, and then I admired her earrings. And she touched them. She just went like right there. And I was like, oh, is it a special stone to you? And she was like, yes, turquoises. And she just like centered and went back, and her smile just opened up. So she was getting some sort of strength from that. So then I broke it, went back, and was looking at other stuff and just kind of touched my earring, and she just sort of...
Wow. I mean, hopefully you really had the experience like Ellen did. This is a naturalistic thing. It's not an artificial thing where you're staring at knees. It's going on all the time. And you can use it in ways that really, for a moment or two, transforms a person's awareness and consciousness. Great. Kyle.
I think I was trying to force it so much, consciously trying to have it. And I think, we went to a T-shirt shop, and we're talking to her, and she said, $4.
Yeah, it was for real estate, so we connected to her.
So he kind of repeated that out here, but it wasn't intentional. And then he came in and did it again, and she responded to it.
Right.
So unintentionally, he said the anchor.
Interesting. Yeah. They're all over the place. Once you are aware, it's like, man.
And that was the key right there. It was the anchor set. And I wasn't even aware that took place.
Right.
And then he clued me on, and you're weird. We figured that out.
Excellent. Great. Yeah, and that's part of the thing. It's really interesting. I mean, hopefully one of the things you began to get a sense of in doing this will stay with you after you're experiencing it apart. But doing NLP, there are times when it is kind of a defined structural methodology, particularly if you're doing private counseling or coaching or official NLP. Right? Official, whatever that is. But characteristically, the way that you began to experience it today is the way that you'll use it. You'll use it conversationally when someone is unclear about what's going on for them, and you find yourself using the meta model. Because the meta model clears it up not only for you, but for them. Or someone is having difficulty, going into a state or imagining something or feeling good, and you find yourself using a meta model for a little bit of anchoring. And it's just an ongoing, natural process of communication. Right? Cool. You were saying that it was fun? What was fun?
It was fun because we went to visitor center with Chris, and he started doing anchoring and things.
Right.
And then after it was done, I went right in and asked that person. And I had this brochure in my hand that had a picture of trees on it. And I asked him, other nice places, did he start describing the place for me? It's this and that. And I showed him the brochure, like this, and I like it. I don't know what that is. It's just a picture people made. And I kept on breaking him with the brochure and asking him.
So it was like breaking rapport, maintaining rapport, asking about the trees and what he enjoyed, and then listen and think, and then recovering it. Very nice. A little dance, yeah. Yes, sir.
In the process of creating an anchor, that girl almost fell in love with Matt.
Uh-oh.
You were so graceful and powerful.
But he did really create an anchor. From the moment he was making certain accents, the expressions were seen on the facial expressions and all that.
That's great.
And of course, he was almost tempted to buy something of 1,200 signs.
Right. Yeah, watch out for that rapport kind of thing. I just signed for a what? So Matt, specifically, what was your anchor for?
I made a running motion.
Okay.
To just set her off laughing. And there was some very expensive jewelry and then some very cheap jewelry. And she was talking about the very expensive jewelry and how it was made here, and the very cheap jewelry was also made here. And I'm like, so how much does this cost? And she's like, the cheapest one is $800. So I just go like, yeah, and then I'm like, no, I'm just kidding, but these are just absolutely gorgeous. And she's like, yeah, and I said, but I'm, and I tested, and she busted up laughing. I went and I looked at the real cheap jewelry, and I told Israel, my anchor is I'm in a running motion. I went back and I was like, my girlfriend would really love this, and she would. And she brought it out, and the price tag was $1,200. And I'm like, wow, this is really nice, but $1,200 and $12. Just set her off again.
Beautiful. So you can train a salesperson that way. You wouldn't have to verbally communicate. You just point to a piece of jewelry, she names the price, and you're right. You're like this.
Even the one who I entered, that man was from Nepal, and it was easy. He himself picked up the conversation. And it was very easy to create for my anchor. And I told him, I'm going to do the anchor, and you will see the emotion. And really, the moment I touched it, because you're having some kind of thing, I said, you're counting such a thing, and when you reach there, you feel great, like, Oh, he was having that.
Was it like a mala?
Yeah.
So you had a mala?
Not only that, but he would set off the anchor on himself.
Yeah, that's powerful generalization.
So
Israel was actually running through a series and building up to a state, and then boom, right? And went to a kinesthetic anchor on the mala. His gesture.
Yeah, it's like, and you feel really great. The guy's like, and I feel really great.
The guy's going to be home later tonight.
I had a fun one. I did an anchoring between anchored. We were just working around choosing people, and I saw this kid, and I did a small trick on him, like by taking your finger right here. He was freaked out. And then 5 minutes later, he was walking back with his father, I think. And so then I went like this. He was like,
same expression.
Cool. So other specifics. What some of the rest did you do?
We went to the coffee shop, and the lady had an insignia on her shirt. So I asked her about it, and it was about she went to a Bible camp for 9 months up here, and so I said, well, that's really interesting, and I told her about having some friends that went to one in Pennsylvania, and I said, I have a lot of respect for you, and that just, the smile just came, and she started telling me about, that she was going to do more studying, and that she was really excited about it, and she kept talking about how excited she was, and then she said, what's your name? She asked for my name, and then we shook hands. So she had the physical connection of being really excited about what she was doing, and someone thought it was a great thing what she was doing.
Right. And, even though there may have been an explicit anchor, Charlene then has become literally an anchor for that responsiveness one. Remember early on, I think it was day 3, when I was here, before we got into anchoring, we did that little barometer exercise. And you were supposed to make, elicit a statement to somebody, and your partner was doing this. And 7 days later, you're out there, and, you're eliciting states and others by commenting on the respect that you have for them so that you can track on the state they go into to stabilize it. Not bad. Very good.
I got to observe Harold, and he anchored a guy at the convenience store in an ice cream sandwich. He did a great job.
Can you go through it?
Yeah, I want to hear more about this, Andrew.
Well, I thought it would be much easier because you've been seeing me ride off on my bicycle at lunchtime. You haven't been seeing me stop at a little Conacher place for a Klondike. So
Harold's working out.
So I think I've got some rapport going with the lady behind the counter because the first time I went in there, we had this, ice cream snacks. We had this really great little conversation. So I'm thinking, okay, well, I've already got a little bit of rapport. Let's go back and exploit that. Walk into the store, everybody was different. I hadn't seen these people before. Wow. But the guy behind the counter, he was just, as soon as I brought that ice cream bar up, he was like, wow, I just love those things. You know what? I thought the cookie was going to be hard, but it's so soft, and the ice cream is so good. And yeah, what is it about this? And it was just so full of energy. And so it broke. I went back and had a conversation with Scott, and came back, and I just held up the ice cream bar. Next time you have one of these, think about me. Oh yeah, buddy, have a great day.
You can mesmerize me with that.
It's a wonderful utilization, you know?
And so from there, we went over to the hotel across the street over here. And we walked into the front counter, and I'm talking to the guy, and I'm remembering that Israel has told me about, because he knows them, they kind of know each other. So we're having this conversation, and I'm trying to figure out, he's getting into a good state, but I'm trying to figure out what a good trigger would be. And then it hit me, I'm going to use Israel as the trigger.
Israel the anchor.
Yeah, Israel the anchor. So anyway, so we get into this whole conversation. We're talking about Israel. I'm telling about stuffing Israel in my trunk and taking them, forcibly to Grand Lake, and we're laughing and all that stuff. And so then so that all works out. So then we walk out of the hotel. We're walking down the sidewalk, and guess who's coming the other way? Israel. El says, "Let's test our anchor." So we take him back. We take Israel back to the hotel. We walk in the front door, and the guy's on the phone. He can't wait to get off the phone because he has to talk. Wow. So it really worked really well.
Wonderful. Other experiences.
Well, Judy and Damon. In fact, there was so many of us in this little art store. I thought I was starting to get a little intimidated. But I went up to the counter and I was talking to this guy, and he asked me after a few minutes why I was here, and I told him I was here, with NLP. And he started getting really excited about he had been in this town, for 25 years, and he remembered 15 years ago how many people were here, and he got really excited about telling me about his first NLP book. And so as I was talking, I just kind of grabbed my nails on the counter. Yeah. And so then I turned around and walked off and went, he showed me some watercolors of Winter Park, and we went back out to the counter, and we're talking about the watercolor, and I started to pay for it, and I just kind of wrapped my fingers back on the counter, and he immediately goes right back into NLP, and wanted to know where he can buy books, and we told him, Judy walked up, we started telling him about the bookstore next week, or that he could come over here at lunch and talk to y'all about NLP. So don't be surprised if he doesn't show up.
We need you in the marketing force. Send you in various stores with the thing. Cool. Good. Yeah.
Actually, about this afternoon, I'm not sure, but I have anchoring this number 3 days back, actually.
All right.
And I was walking, they were walking, and they were starting to talk to each other, and they were from Nebraska, and they told me they are retired, and I was telling about my story from where I come, and they were so excited, and even I just do it, in the beginning, I don't make the time until I come there, I just do like that. Next day, I came back, and I just, it's so far away, and they just say, hey, and today again,
Doesn't she have everyone in here, this movement? She's got us all. I mean, it's great. Perfect. It works. Yeah, really. But I feel good.
Just I want to continue this because I really want to explore it a little bit more deeply. As we're talking here, it reminds me of a story. I don't know exactly how precise this is of the invention, the growth, and the recognition of anchoring in the world of NLP. Like, where did the whole thing of anchoring come from? And the story that I heard told was that it was when John and Richard were modeling Milton Erickson. Right? And they would observe some of the sessions that he'd do with clients, et cetera, and audio tape, et cetera, and make linguistic models. But they said that one day they observed him working with a gentleman. The guy was in a specific chair. It was a nice big easy chair that Milton would have people sit in, and he'd put them in a deep trance and do all this work with them. And they saw towards the end of the session, the guy sitting in the chair like this, very comfortable. And Milton is saying something like, "Our session's just about over. We only have a few more minutes.
But the relaxation that you feel now is something that you can memorize with your body in that chair. Because the feeling that you have grows from this chair, and whenever you're in this chair again, you can immediately return to this feeling. Can you not, guys? You know, does a bunch of what we call post-hypnotic suggestions for this. If the next time the guy's in a chair, he goes immediately into a trance. Milton brought him out, guy stands up, shakes hands, thanks him for the experience, etc., and leaves. And John and Richard happened to be there a week later or whenever this guy's next session was. And they said that he walked in the door and greeted Milton, and Milton gestured to the chair. And the guy's in the normal, just kind of talking, and he's sitting down in the chair, and he just... And John and Richard is like, wait a minute, chair, state, chair, what is this? And it just was kind of the synthesis of the birth of anchors. The stimulus response is one way to kind of a Pavlovian mechanical thing, but it's more than that, right? You establish a link between something with someone's unconscious. Is what, you're not consciously saying, please look at this candy bar and feel good. It's an unconscious response, right? And it's linked to whatever the cue or the stimulus is. So the way to think about anchoring is that it literally is an unconscious communication strategy to sequence emotional states.
Well, and the great thing about this one was I walked out with a nice bar.
Utilization, right? I had a good time, man. I got the ice cream. Other experiences. Did anyone have just a terrifying, horrible time that they couldn't quite?
I had a weird experience.
A weird experience. Okay, weird experience.
I was talking to this Himalayan lady about jewelry.
Where do you find these? One from Nepal, the Himalayas?
The necklace she had around her neck.
Yeah.
And I talked about Himalayas and about that her friends made this necklace in a village she knew. And then I broke stairs. She got really happy, so I touched this necklace.
Right.
Then we put back in a powerful state.
Right.
Then I came back and I went to her and I touched the necklace. So what she's doing, she's taking off the necklace and like, this is for sale. Putting it around my neck.
You like it so much? Here, we'll make a deal.
Something like that.
Wait a minute. It's not quite for result. I want it. I'm admiring it. But
then I did again the necklace.
She thought she had you anchored. It's like, aha, you like the necklace?
We have the school down in the Himalayas.
Right. I'll tell you, it's all stable.
But the second time was I did anchoring, it worked fine because I anchored, I spoke to the woman in the natural food store about like how great the store is, how good smells are, and she got all very smiley.
Right.
And then I noticed her tattoo on her shoulder.
Right.
We talked about that and kind of gestured. And then we bought something. When they walk out, I said, okay, bye, it was wonderful being here and all of this. And she's like, oh, and we got that.
Cool. Jedi training.
Yeah.
Other experiences? Anyone would like to share?
Off the subject. Every time I remove my glasses from my head, it stays there for 2 hours. Like it's not there, but I feel that for what can I do to?
Think about anchoring. So whatever it is, it's a physical sensation. It's there. When you remove them, there's a residual. You can very consciously and consistently remove them, and when they're removed, have a sense of full relaxation and completion in the head. So that the act of removal actually relaxes the head and makes it feel. Cool. Yeah.
Or get a pair of croquis.
Chain, something like that.
Yes,
Five?
Breaking
Yeah, thank you. It works that way, doesn't it? But you notice it really isn't like that. It is an ongoing thing. Matsuda comes up with something about glasses, and she says not on the subject. She says this, but it is linked because you can affect it with anchors, and we're talking about anchoring. I look over at you guys, and you're up here breaking state, but it's not really. It's just a shift in consciousness that brings us all back to a demonstration that I did a number of days ago with the fan spinning around, right? But there's a sense of continuity to it now in terms of our maps. But suddenly our map is huge, and things aren't jammed in there. Judy, you were saying, I think it was yesterday, that it was like, oh my God, it's like, how are you today?
Much better.
Much better. Yeah.
Looking forward to the weekend.
Oh, sure.
And getting a break and
Yeah.
down
Absolutely.
and not working on it for
Yep.
a while and sort of letting it settle in.
That's what downtimes are really about, you know, to get regenerated, right, on the weekend, which you've got coming up. We have a couple of things to do prior. Let's see. I think what we're going to do is, let me do this. We're really close to a transition point, and we're going to have a little ceremony. We have some certificates and things like that for those that are stopping off at the island of Niihau, while the rest of us consider the voyage to Tahiti. But before we got into that, I thought that we have a little bit of time, so I just wanted to open the floor to anything, right? If there's any, I want you to review the time you've been up here, 10 days. And I was first trainer you saw, you know, rewind the tapes to there and kind of scan your experience up here. And we don't expect that this is something that is completely and thoroughly integrated and you can tell me step number 6 of the change personal history pattern. We do expect that with a little review of the notes you could get through it and like that. So there's levels to assimilation. That's totally fine. But I wanted to just open it again. If there's anything as you look at the sort of the warp and the woof, the weaving of the fabric, if there's any major holes or missing pieces at this point. Sadik, do you have a comment?
Yeah. In my study group yesterday, we were talking about sensory acuities and how will learning this ability help us to differentiate between hallucination.
Right.
And I guess Ricardo and myself, we had some difficulty, what exactly is hallucination? And
Right.
how can we make distinction?
The thing, I think the thing you covered most comprehensively that is a inoculation against hallucination is the meta model, right? Because the meta model requires that you use specific language. And, you know, if you're in doubt about your calibrations or what you're seeing or what you're perceiving, then the thing that you want to practice is sensory-based feedback, right, to yourself internally and in groups, etc. For example, you know, if you're working up here in a group and you're the observer, and then at the end of the exercise someone says, could you give us some feedback? If you say, well, I don't know, you looked really upset for a moment there, and I think that you were having a hard time with it, and the operator looked, you know, kind of confused. That's almost worthless feedback because it doesn't link anything to any sensory-based experience. You want to link responses to behaviors. You want to say something like, well, when the operator's voice tone shifted and he made that gesture, I saw you your shoulders slump and come back, and your eyes went down to kinesthetic, and it appeared to me to be a different state. So I noticed those cues in response to what he did. And then the content of what you're saying changed track completely. You had been talking about this, and then you started talking about that. That's high-quality feedback, because then you can shift behaviors, you can change and tune it up, as opposed to hallucination. Hallucination is an interpretation, right? This is why I was saying that the rule of thumb is to calibrate before you hallucinate. Right? Link what it is that you're observing, right, with some evidence, some feedback about the state that the other person's in. And there are sometimes, you know, the states are really close, but if you educate your sensory acuity, for example, you can tell the difference between your 16-year-old son coming in and maybe he didn't get enough sleep last night because he was up studying, and so he looks kind of worn out and weary, but that looks also very similar to maybe the times you've caught him smoking pot. And if you hallucinate one or the other, you know, perhaps unfortunate results. So sensory acuity and feedback, finding out how are you doing, what's going on, where you been, so that you go external and you stop assuming that this is the way it is, or that because they're in this sort of emotional state that it always means that thing. Right? It's a constant process of feedback from the outside world to tune up your map. Because as you've noticed, the universe changes, and the map that you're so proud of today, because the copyright date is today, guess what tomorrow brings? Suddenly, the map's a bit older. And a month from now, even older. And a month from now, even older. So It's a constant, ongoing process.
Yeah, one more addition to this here. So if a person is high on drugs or on alcohol, and if he tries to give his tries to explain how he feels or what his sensory acuity are, would you consider that his not giving a correct feedback and his hallucinating?
I would consider it as I would communication from a part of him.
Okay.
Right? I mean, we talked earlier about parts over here. Right? There was a part that wanted to continue the diet, and the other one wanted to go out and have the ice cream. And they both had different behaviors, different structure. Right? And whether it's a radically altered state because a person's drunk or stoned, right? It's simply a different configuration of cues that come up, right? And that's useful because you can calibrate to these things and notice when they come up, rather than it gives you some precision in dealing with people. How many of you had the experience when you had something important to tell either a coworker or a husband or a wife, and you haven't bothered to really calibrate where they're at, right? Doesn't work too well, does it? Whoa! But if you just take that moment or two, use your sensory acuity, kind of replay your history tapes, link those behaviors to their known internal state, it may or may not be appropriate to communicate at that time, right? You may need to do things to shift state. Cool. Good question. Other things in the big picture. Scott, did I see your hand hovering the other moment?
Yeah, it was just kind of more of a general comment. The comment was, probably in a lot of ways that kind of came up in blind faith, thinking some friends had done similar stuff. And one of the things that's just blown me away is I never, ever envisioned the magnitude of the knowledge that I gained in 2 weeks. And I've never taken 2 weeks of vacation time to go to a training like this.
Right.
I'm just blown away.
Yeah, great. I'd like us all to kind of think about that for a moment, because the very first thing I did, if you remember, on the Monday morning that I began, was kind of set some frames and sort of went blah, 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 surface structure, blah, 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 deep structure, surface structure, deep structure, and you introduced yourselves from both positions, right? And, just kind of do an evaluation of what that has been like for you, what your anticipations were, what your expectations, your surface structure things, skills to learn, etc., and also this deeper structure of whatever it was that brought you here. And compare that to where you're at right now. Compare that to your experience. In a sense, compare your anticipation with your experience after 2 weeks. That's a useful thing to do, kind of track your evolution in this whole thing, realizing what's possible in a short 2 weeks' time. Ivan.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
What is discipline? Is it a strategy that works for one, or what is it?
Discipline? I think it would probably, for me, depend on the context in which
discipline to accomplish your goals, such as go to exercises, go to bed at the right time, to do things until a certain limit, and when you know its limits, it's reached, you stop. Something like that.
Okay. So discipline is what, in terms of the meta model? It's a nominalization. It's used as a noun, but you can't put it in a wheelbarrow. So you have to gather sufficient information to understand how a particular person is using a word like discipline. Right? And we could certainly continue with more of that with Yvonne, but there, in a sense, are kind of, for me, a couple of different types of discipline. One is when you need will, structure, effort. You're kind of forcing something. And most of us have sometimes kind of not a great connotation or feeling around the word discipline, because maybe our parents disciplined us and it hurt, right? Or we lacked discipline. That's your trouble, son. You lacked discipline. I'm sorry. You're right. That was my response. So what? Good. But see, Ivan is, in a sense, I think the way that he's using it is he's linking it to two things. He's linking it to an outcome, right? And then kind of the strategy for getting there. But with the outcome being the point. In other words, discipline is a tool. Discipline allows you to get somewhere. And so we discover how Ivan experiences discipline and whether or not that's the way he wants to experience life as he achieves goals. Some people really like it. You know, some people love getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and making the bed so a quarter can bounce off of it, and they're precise, and they take cold showers and all kinds of disciplined things that I say, well, cool, that's great. And, if those things bring you in alignment with who you feel yourself truly to be, and you like them, do them. Right? But if not, if you feel as if it's kind of a struggle, and it's sort of back to the geo, you want to look for a different operation. Because the point is to achieve the goal, not to wear a hair shirt. Right? Not the beating the self with brambles. Joe?
I just had a thought with Yvonne. Is it discipline or structure?
By structure.
There's your answer.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? So we shift gears. We're in sight of the island of Niihau. I can hear the surf. The canoe is about to come to the beach. All right, let's take a 10-minute break, and then we will regroup for something. Chairs. I want to get a chair for all of you up here. I'm going to make a line of you up in chairs, okay? Because we're going to say farewell, but there's no reason for you to stand here and be uncomfortable. So whatever we need to do, if you can bring your chair up, or the people in the front can slip back. Yeah. Someone get rid of it? What do you mean? Wow. Wow. Great. Cool.
Oh, I want to be last.
I want to be last. Do you?
I'm fine. I'm good, you're good. No.
We'll make this the last day.
Start from there.
Tom says we have to start from over here because he wants to be last. So we'll start over here. Could I ask maybe a little bit more space? I'm sorry. It's logistics. You'll notice that, if you look at the back of the room, you'll notice that Chris is bustling around with some little blue envelopes there.
Being an anchor on the blue?
Yeah. Blue will do it. Yeah, hold one of those up, Adrian. There's a certificate. Right? And this is suitable for framing. Suitable for framing. And, that's a long voyage for me. You have 10 days of intense work. And it definitely deserves acknowledgement. One of in a sense, the smallest acknowledgments, a certificate, is a piece of paper. The greatest acknowledgement that you can have from having been here is the acknowledgement that you feel internally, right, from your own experience and from your peers. But the paper's nice, I have to say. And you folks have another piece of paper to look forward to in 10 more days. And I have to tell you about a little story about a certificate. You have heard from my stories I really value and honor the teaching I got from John Grinder. He was really a hero for me. And on my practitioner graduation, when I received my certificate from Stephen Conray, the training was done at a hotel in Boulder called the Broker. And outside the meeting space room, there was a little lounge area and a bar. And I think there was, we had an open bar and some champagne and stuff afterwards. And the whole thing was over, and I had my little certificate, and I was so proud. And I had a little stand-up bar, and I had it there, and I had my glass of champagne, and I was talking to somebody. And John Grinder, who is just a man who absolutely knows where his body is in space at any given moment in time, right, comes over and reaches out to shake hands with me, hits the champagne glass, and it hits my certificate, and the ink runs, and the signatures, and the thing kind of curled up, and I went, cool. And I still have it. It's really great. Yeah, these things stick with you, running, signature, like that. So they're not just a piece of paper. A certificate is like a word, like these words, useful nominalization, success, knowledge, challenge, excellence, happiness, accomplishment, generosity, curiosity. Those are all just words. And a word simply points to an experience. And the same is true of these certificates. They're like a word. They simply point to an experience that you had in the last 10 days. So we've kind of organized it with the coaches, and they're going to present your certificates to you. And as you receive your certificate, if you'd be willing to, we're going to start over here if we could and pass the mic down. And I'd like to kind of continue our metaphor of Hawaiian navigation, the surface structure, deep structure. You had certain intentions when you got on the canoe 10 days ago, certain conscious mind things that brought you here, and certain deeper things that also brought you here, and then you had your experience. So if you could just share a few words about whatever the transition was, whatever it was that you feel as if you truly experienced here. That could be either in terms of the content of the training, things that you've learned, experiences of the trainers that you've had up here. As you were saying, Scott, just the kinds of things that can happen in 2 weeks that you never expected. And so we'll give you an opportunity to kind of say farewell to the rest of us who are going to be sailing on to Tahiti, right? To begin to initiate this kind of transformation in the energy of the group, the size of the group, right? And then we'll gather together if the sun is shining outside, otherwise in here for a kind of a closing ceremony with the whole group, right? So I'll turn it over, Gary, I guess to you or whoever's your coach, to Chris, whoever's.
I'm going to invite my coaches.
Great. And I will. Let me relinquish this to you, and if you could just pass that down and make sure that it's...
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Let's see, to the folks who were in my group, the first one I have here is Tom Collins.
There's no accidents, right? Wait a minute. I knew it was coming like this ain't working out anymore.
So, Tom, I noticed when you first came out the first day that you were talking about your partners, and that you had 9 partners, which you called marriages that day, and a couple of days ago it was 5, and last night it was 4. What's happening?
Well, I haven't had any divorces.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks.
It's great to work with. Let's see.
Yeah, if you'd like to share some of your experience here.
Well, what I had was, you get an inspirational moment. And, it's interesting for all of us. And now we're up here, and everybody's going to speak and feel comfortable about speaking. And last night, 2 days ago, I had something in mind for. I think I did this to you. Which was the analogy or the metaphor for being on the canoe. And so the reason why I wanted to be last was I had something in mind. I was going to tie this all together. And then, of course, we're going to do the metaphor. Of course, silly me to think that Mr. Best would not maybe tie it to... So I guess if I may, I'll go with what I have in mind. But part of it was recognition, too. So 10 days ago, we drove up the mountain and found ourselves in Winter Park, only to be miraculously transferred to the beautiful island of Maui and survived the road to Hana, the beautiful Black Beach. And as we got off the ride and on the Black Beach, we were asked to leave behind baggage. And I noticed around me there's other people leaving baggage, and we then decide that here's the boat, and as we go along in this journey off into the beautiful Bay of Hana, that we're not there by ourselves. We have our guardian angels, and it's really important to recognize Gary and Adrian and Brigitte and Masadic, and they were there for us that I didn't really recognize that we were being watched out for the whole time we were here. And as we set out into the waters, yesterday or 2 days ago, we were informed that we had just got out into open water, which after 10 days you think, gosh, we could go sailing anywhere, but we just got out to the open water. So, but now it's time for us to land on our island and go back to the lands where we come from. And it's great to have had this experience with all of you, and we've all had some interaction that's been meaningful, and it's been good for me as well. So I'm ready to disembark and go back to the land that I come from and take this with me and the experiences I had with you guys. Not to forget the people who were out in front blazing the trail for us all. Thank you very much.
Harold. So Harold, I noticed when you came here that you wrote down that you really were interested in getting more clarity. And last night, as you were jumping up and down in class and seeing you have more clarity, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
I'll be glad to.
Yeah.
That was the one outcome that I had when I came here, and like you all 10 days ago, I had no idea what was about to happen. I saw these things on the wall over here, and they all made some sense to me because I've had some familiarity with the language in the past. But what I discovered here this couple of weeks was that one in particular on the end. That even something as simple as ordering a meal from a menu is an opportunity, if you want it to be, a window inside. And you can discover all that you need to discover by the most simple or the most complex ways there are. It's all inside, and I know that now. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to come here to meet you all. It's just been a wonderful experience for me to meet people from all over the world and from all over this country, and our wonderful leadership. And I'll never forget you guys. I'll never forget you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Scott Smith.
So Scott came in on that first night, and he was really interested in being more focused on what he wanted to do and trying to figure out how he would conduct his new business. And then there was some relationship stuff in there, and he's made an enormous amount of progress here. I noticed, for instance, that he was noticing the similarities there.
Thanks, Gary. I guess, I'm leaving back for the island of Denver here. It's not too long of a journey back, but all the expectations that I had around the business goals and all of those things absolutely got met within days. And for me, the biggest part is the emotional aspect. Quite honestly, this has really meant a lot for me, for each of you. And I don't want to go back. So I'm just looking forward to getting involved in the next round of training. And was promising myself I wouldn't choke up here. But the funny thing is, the really funny part is I'm in front of people all the time because I'm in sales and sales management. So standing in front of a group is, an easy thing for me to do. What I wasn't expecting is the emotions and kinesthetically connecting with everybody.
All right.
I would like to present this Certified Associate Practitioner of Neurolinguistic Programming piece of paper to Michelle. And I have seen you progress so much, even if it doesn't seem like it sometimes. I've seen you break out into smiles and laughter, and you weren't doing that in the first few days. And I've seen you have breakthroughs and understand things and have these experiences where you were just lit up. And I know that even if it seemed really difficult, that you'll find the answers that you need to figure out this path you're on.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Adrian. As I had mentioned before, there were several key critical things that I just needed to kind of resolve personally. The last 8 months of my life have been undescribable, and so it was at least nice to be able to resolve some things from the past, actually, so that I can step forward into the future. And every single one of these coaches and every single person in leadership has been incredible. And I just want to thank Tom. Obviously, Tom Best is, well, His name speaks for itself. But the one, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it poster, that really speaks to my heart is the one that is here on the end. It says, people respond to their map of reality, not reality itself. And that's something that I want to work on even further, and I think I can, thanks to your guidance and through your teaching. So, thank you.
The next person that we can grant an associate practitioner of neurolinguistic programming is Brian. And I've really enjoyed watching you. You have this great enthusiasm, and you seem to grasp things really well. Maybe it's something else. And I noticed that you seem to really easily be able to think about how you'll apply all of these skills into your life. And it's just really great to see.
Yeah. The thing I have to say, my outcomes were probably met within the first 4 days of that program. And it was just, I was blown away by everything. And I think more than anything here in this group is like the connections with the quality of people which you meet. And that was really, that's almost priceless. So not only have I learned how to sell and see the rigging and the selling and the sales, but I've also been able to actually look at the ocean, which is a great gift. And so it's just changed everything for me. Thank you so much.
Our next associate, who will someday be a practitioner, I know, because she's determined to finish it, is Maya. And I've really enjoyed having you in this class. I think other people have definitely enjoyed you too. You just have a wonderful sort of fiery energy, and just you're enthusiastic, and you really love to pick things apart and figure them out, and you just seem to be really motivated to learn. It's just great. Well, but we can still use it, can't we?
Let's put things together.
Good. You can take them apart and put them back together.
Okay. It has been a great experience learning here. I've never been for 2 weeks among people with such a different backgrounds, and now I realize that how people can, even from different backgrounds, different ages, connect on that level of understanding and everything else, interaction, any sort of communication. I came here with the idea to find exercises, tricks, and tips to make people around me happy. Outcome is a little bit different. I found tips and tricks and exercises, but I guess I changed too. I expanded my internal state. And understood more about myself, I would say so. And thank you, everybody. Like, I look at each of you and I see that, like, I want, oh, this is so great, this person can do this and this person can do that. And I realize that I can do it too. Because if anybody has any sort of internal resource, everybody else does. So, like, anyone can do anything. This is my favorite. And it had been wonderful. It had been a little mini life that will expand to integrate to my whole life. And of course, I'll continue education, and I'll see you all sometime in the future. Thank you. So the one we are saying goodbye to from my group is Charlene. And Charlene, when you first joined our canoe, you were planning on just doing the very short 5-day voyage with us. And I'm very glad that you changed your mind and stayed longer and expanded your journey for 10 days.
And I've seen you lighten up a lot in that time, and I'm really glad you shared this experience with us. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
I would like to thank Brigitte. She was my pod leader, and those were some of the best times for me, being in the smaller groups and really having more focus, and it was a quiet environment, and I really got a lot out of those particular ones. When I walked in the door, you have a sign up here, "This is what I believe." This is my philosophy. People already have all the resources they need, and so I think when you walk in and there's a sign that has your belief on the wall, then you say, this is going to be a good place because we're already connecting and being in a really good space. So I just wanted to thank all of you for sharing and supporting and adding some new ways of viewing the world, because that's really important. Sometimes you can get in a tunnel, and when you meet such a wide variety of people and their hearts are all in the right place, you just take away so much positive, good feedback. Thank you so much.
I think I was privileged to have Joe in my study group, and I also feel that the entire group here was privileged to have him, have you in our study session. You were attentive all throughout the day, and yet had a keen sense of humor to make the learning process a very good experience. I wish you all the best in the learning process.
Is there any champagne handy I can spill on this? Let's see. So I think I'll clip this. This is tough. Of course, I think it is probably for everybody. When I think back to a week ago this past Sunday, when I was paddling my canoe made by Jeep from Steamboat over to Winter Park, I didn't know what kind of a journey I was embarking on at the time. And I'm still not exactly sure what journey I've been on. I've got some ideas of it, and there's been many facets of it. And it's, I think I've mentioned before, I'm here because my doctor suggested it was a good idea, and it was the best thing he'd ever done in his life, 25 years ago. And so I was huffing and puffing I made the decision on a Thursday and got here on Sunday night, and I was only staying for 5 days. And so that was kind of my reason for coming, was my doctor saying, you should do this. And so, good boy, right? And so I took his advice, and I came, and I saw, and my head has been spinning ever since with new things. I was fortunately able to arrange to come for the second 5 days, and fortunately there was space for me. And it's been an experience that I find hard to sum up. To do it in the Hawaiian Islands terms, I guess I would say that what our trainers have provided for us here, kind of expansive possibilities, because I think this has been so much about possibilities for everyone, and certainly for me. Our trainers, our coaches who've been so helpful, and as has been mentioned before, in the back, behind, kind of like the Mother Doc type of scenario of keeping an eye out and grabbing something or just inserting something at just the right time, and that's really been a great appreciation to me. And everybody here in the room, I mean, to exchange all the different experiences that we did in doing these exercises, I think has been of tremendous value. So even our audiovisual guys who aren't paying attention got I'm just joking. It got into the act and also provided good input. So, I think everyone here has been on a positive note of providing something and being a resource for everybody in the room. And I feel like I've been a sponge, trying to soak up what I can. And it's my hope to use what I've learned here to improve my own situation. Of course, that's what I'm looking at first and foremost, getting over some of the health hurdles I have. But I think on a broader scale, again in Hawaiian terms, I think my inner island has gotten larger, and the trees are growing, I think, again. The palm trees are starting to sway, and it's leaving me with a very good feeling. I'd love to stay for the next 10 days, but that's not possible for me. I'm delighted to have been privileged to spend the time with everyone here in this room in such a positive atmosphere. It is, for somebody who didn't have a clue about what he was getting into, this has been a very rich experience that I would recommend to anyone. Thank you very much.
Ellen, the little I could calibrate from your dedication and the sincerity to the learning process which you exhibited in the training hall, and the Ellen I knew in the first study group session and the last which you have yesterday, there was a big difference. Because I felt your learning process was not only confined to learning, but you were one I felt who was always putting into practice. And I like the way you said, I think I got it. I don't know what else you're going to get it, but for sure you're going to get this certificate.
I would agree. I was sitting up here thinking, and I'm going to cry probably too. I'm a different person than I was. Oh, powerful state. Okay. Power and grace. Thank you. All right, I am. I am the same person, but I'm different than when I came. And I guess I'm surprised. I wasn't expecting connections that I feel with so many people, and that's sometimes hard for me. I tend to pull away at first, so that's a big step for me to take, to be able to open up and really let people in. So that's big for me, and I'm so happy to have new communication skills and a better feeling about myself and how my behavior affects other people, positive and negative. Sadly, maybe how it did more negatively, but I'm happy to know that I can change that. And I can do that, because anyone can do anything. And I'm really happy to be able to experience that and to finish this process, to stay in touch with the Front Range connection that we have, but hopefully to stay connected with all of the other incredible people that are in this room as well. Trainers, coaches, you're incredible. Your looks, your winks, your nods, your suggestions, everything is just amazing. Thank you.
Ricardo, you were such a resource to the entire group, and of course to my study group. The dedication which you with which you participated with the trainers and with the participants in the exercises was unparalleled. And what I could calibrate or guess is that you are very much committed to the long-term learning of entire NLP. I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and congratulations.
Well, the expectations that I had coming up here were really non-existent. I didn't know what I was getting into. This journey has really opened up my mind and my spirit most of all, and I thank you for that, Tom. I have experienced something that I have never experienced in my life. And that is to say that it's okay that I like myself. By doing so, I'll become so much better at being a father, a husband, a friend. And I honor the sharing of experiences with all of you. I take a part of you in my heart, and I can't thank you enough for being so open. There's some of you in this room that I have learned a great deal from, and I just look forward to the journey now with hope and gladness in my heart, which before coming here I did not have. So thank you very much. Trainers, awesome.
Okay, we'd like to sing you a little song.
Excuse me.
Maya has something very important.
Very important. I guess not only me, but few other people forgot to thank you, coaches and coordinator. Thank you very much. Always handy, always wonderful help, new ideas. Thank you so, so much. And another, I would like to thank Tom. Thank you very much for helping me to identify my internal resources. Thank you.